Thank you so much for talking with us, Phil.
Oh, sure.
My first question is just, can you tell us a little bit about how you first came into doing qualitative work?
Okay. Well, I got a bachelor's degree in cultural anthropology, and from this university, Wisconsin. And instead of going on to grad school right away, I got involved with working with people who are underprivileged and oppressed in various ways. I wound up in Los Angeles doing that kind of thing, and met my wife there, who's English. And so then I went to England, and we were very naive. We tried to have a people's unemployment center that we opened in a squat in London. And that didn't work very well. And then we moved to Liverpool, and there's a school in Liverpool that was shut down by the local authorities. It's named Croxteth. And it serviced a working class community. And there's a real militant tradition in Liverpool because of the dock workers. And they took over the school in protest. And I wanted to help them out, so I went over there. And they said, great, we need teachers because we're going to run this until, And so around the same time, I met a professor at an organization in England called the Socialist Society. And I told him what was going on. I said, I'd really like to write this up as a dissertation for a PhD. And he said, oh, wow, yeah, apply to us. So that's how I got into qualitative research. It was real participatory action research. And it was an amazing experience because it was something that never could have happened in this country. When the police were sent to take back the school, the labor unions came out and blocked them. They tried to cut off the electricity, and the labor unions put the electricity back on. They provided free food for the kids for a whole year. The labor movement's very strong there. So I basically did an ethnographic study while I was working in this school, and I was interested in a lot of things, urban sociology, social movements, because this was one, but also what kind of pedagogy would we have in a school that we took over. It was a chance to change the curriculum and pedagogy to make it actually relevant for working class kids, because in England the class system's very, very blatant, and it's very hard for working class kids to do well on these standardized tests. So it was just a very interesting year. And then after that, I got the PhD and got a job, University of Houston, and I'd done qualitative research, so they asked me to teach a course in it.
So to go back for 1 second, can you talk a little bit about how you would think about what constitutes, to use your words, real participatory action research?
Okay.
And also kind of the pedagogical formation process in the school.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, in terms of participatory action research, which I think is, in qualitative research, is an ideal case because it means you're doing research with people, not on people, and you are deferring to them as much as possible, following their lead, and trying to make the research useful to them. I felt guilty a lot because I was getting a PhD out of this, and the people I worked with weren't, and that didn't feel right, but I did it anyway. And published a book on it later in my name. I mean, I wrote it and everything, but I would, in an ideal case, in participatory action research, you would have collective publications. It wouldn't be just one person. So I guess the main idea there is if you can go into a community You want to be of use to the people. You don't want to have your agenda determine what you're studying. You follow their lead. That's participatory action research. And you're not just doing research, you're doing whatever it is that the people are doing. In this case, running a school illegally. It was great.
And what was that pedagogical process like? What kind of curriculum did you end up with?
Well, that was a big struggle. That was an interesting aspect of the situation that featured into my dissertation a lot, because the people in the community hadn't had much schooling themselves. The idea really was to get to the age 15, then you stop your schooling, you get a job. And getting a job's a real big deal, because that's how you... So they just thought we would know how to teach. We gathered a bunch of left-leaning people who had time to volunteer. In England, you could have time because you can survive there more easily. You can find places to stay and so on, even if you're unemployed. And so the teachers as a group were progressivists in terms of curriculum and pedagogy. We all thought, let's change it because the system isn't good. It's reproducing the class relations, real obvious ways. But the community people, they didn't like that idea. They wanted us to teach in a very traditional way, even hitting kids, because in England, this was in the mid-1980s. In England, at least at that time, I'm not sure about now, caning was a practice of discipline. And both the kids we had and the parents thought we should be caning. We never did. We weren't going to do that. So there was a struggle over the curriculum and pedagogy, and it was sort of ironic because the teachers, who were mainly middle class in background, thought they knew that the curriculum should be different, pedagogy should be different. The parents, from a working class background, they thought that was dangerous. Yeah. So it was mixed results, let's put it that way. We needed another 5 years, and we didn't have it.
What happened at the end of the year? Did the government...
Yeah, the Labour Party won the local elections and then restored the school. And I taught there for another year, and I saw it go totally back to traditional schooling. So that was disappointing. But at least they won that school back.
There you go. So then you moved to the University of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And how did your kind of research and theoretical life unfold at that point?
Okay, well... I'm really, really drawn to theory. I love philosophy. I mean, it's almost, I get high from it. I mean, it's sort of like clear to me. It has been for a very long time. That's part of my life. And philosophy for me is social. I mean, it's right here between you and I. The abstract concepts and so on are really clarifying what's very concrete and going on. So before the school takeover, I was involved with an underground newspaper. I don't know if I should be putting this all on tape. Well, it wasn't illegal, but it's sort of a neo-Marxist Hegelian paper. And I was really interested in critical theory because critical theory had that combination of really good philosophizing with the social, the two going together. At least it tried to do that. So I was steeped in that stuff. And when I got to Houston, I looked for any way I could make a niche for myself where I was teaching the things I love. And when I was asked to teach a research course, I don't know if I should say this either, but I will. I've never taken a research class. In England, the idea was, anybody should have the sense to know how to, you just read a lot of studies and then you should figure it out. And that worked actually for me. So when I was asked to teach a research class, I devised my own curriculum based on the social theory, critical theory in particular. And that's how that happened. I haven't found books on qualitative research to be all that interesting or useful to me. And for many years, students wouldn't have a book I wouldn't have an assigned book, and it would be very much based on what I do in the classroom. So lectures and exercises to put the lecture material right into practice, analyzing data, interviewing each other, and then articulating what's going on with the theoretical concepts.
How has your approach to teaching and thinking about critical theory changed over the years?
It hasn't changed. I mean, it's always refining. I feel like I know I've been learning, but it's more in terms of refining and deepening understandings. And for me, it's related to what I call spirituality. I mean that in a very broad sense. I don't tie it to any religion, but I do practice meditation, have for a very long time. And to me, critical theory and meditative practice are very congruent with each other. It's, in both cases, we learn more how to love. And I think people who do research, they should want to learn more how to love people. If they don't already have a bit of that orientation, go into economics or something. Don't be a social researcher. Because you really have to find people awesome and teachers for yourself to do good research, I think. Otherwise, you hurt people accidentally. So I just say it's all kind of that perspective. It hasn't changed in general, but there have been refinements and concepts and things. And I've been changing as a person, too.
Who are the people that you like to think with the most, and why?
So by think with, you mean face-to-face?
Texts or face-to-face.
Oh, okay. I love it with my students. I love my students, and what I think is best about teaching when it's going well is when you find something in somebody that they don't realize that they have this talent or this perspective, and you bring it out and you nurture it and you let them express it, and then you learn from it, and you see this light getting brighter, and then your light gets brighter. So my students they're the most favorite people I think with. I love reading. I respect, I guess in terms of authors, Habermas's work has been very important to me. Hegel is incredible. I actually admire very much Derrida and his works. Those are
What have been the hardest moments for you during your career?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take I can think of several things, but I'll take an example from research because I think that's something that all of us encounter at times, ethical dilemmas in the field work. And I experienced that in my study of Croxteth of the school because everything I wrote about that school would have an effect on the community, and it was very important that the school takeover and so on be viewed as legitimate by the British public. I mean, the BBC came, some guy like Timothy came with a camera, and we were on a special program called 2020 Vision. It was very much a public kind of a thing. And I mean, things happened in the community that I had to decide, should I put this into my writing or not? And that felt like an ethical dilemma. The worst involved the fact that the community members factionalized for a while. And that was a really complex situation, and it seemed partly based on gender. Some of the sexism in the community, which there was sexism there. And I wasn't sure what to do with that, actually. So I omitted publishing certain things. My ethical choice was do what's going to hurt people least. But, it means part of the story wasn't recorded. Is that a bad thing or not? Actually, at the end of the day, it seemed clear to me that not publishing it was the right thing to do. But that did disturb me.
Thank you for that example. I think a lot of the students I work with struggle much more in the writing phase. They may feel very comfortable with the research process, and then when it comes to writing and representing both people and their experience, it becomes very difficult ethically.
Yeah, I'll give you another quick example. I did a study in Houston one time where I was really intensively observing a classroom. It was a very difficult classroom. It was kids who were extracted from other classes because they could be violent and so on. I mean, one had stabbed somebody. It was pretty intense. And I did an analysis of this teacher interacting with the kids. And there was one sequence of interaction I had captured that I was putting into a report. And I was putting it in because I thought I had found a way that the teacher could act just a little bit differently to get a different result down the road. So, because there was this pattern of escalating. But when he read it, we all should show our work to the people we're working with, at least in most cases. If it's very rich people, maybe, maybe not. But usually we study vulnerable people. When he read it, he said, well, I never did this. Well, it's on tape. He obviously did. But my response was, oh, okay. And I just cut it out. I wasn't going to shove that in his face. And it could have made him look bad. And I knew him as a teacher. We all, that could happen to any of us. So I just cut it out. And so my advice to people is it's better to do things that are helpful to people than harmful in most cases. If you're studying people who really are oppressing other people, then you really get it out there. But, okay.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for graduate students who are interested in doing qualitative research, particularly critically informed qualitative research, but are early on in the process?
Okay. I would recommend reading a lot of theory, good social theory. Habermas, Giddens, Bourdieu, and studying it, though, in a way where you can see it's very concrete. It's not so abstract. You can see how the concepts help you. These concepts are like a meta vocabulary to help you articulate what you already sense or know in some way, implicitly. And I find that a lot more useful than reading methods books. Okay. I don't think there's a particular way to code data that should be followed. I don't think there's a particular way to triangulate as if that's some kind of a fixed procedural thing. I think the most important thing is being aware and being able to articulate what you're aware of. Two things. And third thing, really respect the people you're working with and get them to talk to you about what you're thinking. Don't think you understand what's going on better than anybody else. That's my advice, really. So methods classes, they're good if the instructor is insightful and humanistic and so on. Otherwise,
And let me flip that same question a little bit differently now. What advice would you have for advisors who are working with students interested in doing more critically informed research if they themselves are not necessarily very familiar with informed research?
with the critical? All right, well, that's a difficult question. The critical theory tradition is extremely rich, and it really does involve a kind of a big shift in the way we understand things as we grow up in our culture. I mean, a lot of common sense things have to get shifted to get it, I think. And so if an advisor isn't familiar with that, I don't know what the... Critical doesn't just mean I don't like the class system, I don't like capitalism, I don't like racism, I don't like sexism. It includes those things, but it goes deeper than that. So for advisors, maybe say, tell students if you don't know much about critical theory, critical perspective, encourage them to read widely in that area, and to take, I guess, theory as a process of self-transformation very seriously. Not theory as templates to fit things into. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you. Do you have any other thoughts that you'd just like to share with the video audience? No, not really. You can always email. I myself am always welcome people who want to talk with me or contact me. And yeah, but that's about all I can think of to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for talking with us.
Sure, thank you.